Hi and welcome to Apex Atlas. Between the Arabian Gulf and the vast interior of the Arabian Peninsula lies a land shaped by heat, wind, and resilience. This is the United Arab Emirates. At first glance, it may appear as endless desert. But beneath the dunes lies a complex natural system built on adaptation. Here, summer temperatures soar beyond 45 degrees Celsius. Rainfall is scarce and unpredictable. Water defines survival. Yet even in these extreme conditions, life persists. Desert shrubs anchor shifting sands. Mountain wadis collect rare rainfall. Mangrove forests grow in salt-rich coastal waters. Marine ecosystems thrive in warm, shallow seas. In this documentary, we explore the complete natural identity of the UAE, from its ancient geological foundations to its deserts, mountains, wetlands, and seas. This is a story not of abundance, but of endurance. Land of sand, stone, and salt. To understand the United Arab Emirates, you must begin with the desert. Most of the country lies within the vast Arabian Desert, one of the largest continuous sand deserts on Earth. In the south, the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, stretches across borders in a sea of dunes sculpted by wind over millennia. These dunes are not static. They move. Wind reshapes them constantly, forming crescent-shaped barchans, towering star dunes, and long linear ridges that shift with seasonal winds. But sand tells only part of the story. To the east rise the Hajar Mountains, a rugged range formed by tectonic uplift millions of years ago. Unlike the soft desert plains, these mountains are jagged, fractured, and mineral-rich. Their slopes collect the country's limited rainfall. Water runs briefly through wadis, dry riverbeds that flow only after storms, carving narrow valleys through rock. These mountains are geological contrasts to the surrounding dunes. They are older, harder, and more resistant to erosion. Along the coast, another landscape emerges. Salt flats, known as sabkhas, form where seawater evaporates under intense sun, leaving behind crystalline mineral crusts. These areas appear lifeless, yet specialized microorganisms survive within the salt. The UAE's coastline borders the shallow waters of the Arabian Gulf, one of the warmest seas in the world. High salinity and temperature create extreme marine conditions, yet coral reefs and seagrass meadows persist. Geologically, the UAE is a land of compression and uplift. Where the Arabian Plate meets Eurasia, pushing mountains upward while deserts expand outward. It is a country built on scarcity. No permanent rivers. Limited groundwater. Seasonal rainfall measured in millimeters rather than meters. And yet, within these constraints, life found ways to survive. The land of the UAE is not empty. It is finely balanced. Between wind and rock. Between sea and salt. Between heat and survival. Climate, heat, and the science of survival. In the United Arab Emirates, climate is not simply a background condition. It is the dominant force shaping every landscape, ecosystem, and living organism. This is a hyper-arid environment. Annual rainfall across much of the country averages less than 100 millimeters, and in some inland regions, entire months, even years, can pass with barely a measurable shower. When rain does arrive, it often falls suddenly and intensely, overwhelming dry ground that cannot absorb it quickly. Flash floods rush through wadis, briefly transforming rocky valleys into torrents before disappearing just as rapidly back into heat and dust. Summer defines the rhythm of life. From May through September, temperatures routinely climb above 45 degrees Celsius in interior deserts. Ground surface temperatures can exceed 70 degrees Celsius under direct sun. Humidity along the coast intensifies the effect as warm air rises from the shallow waters of the Arabian Gulf. The result is an environment where exposure can quickly become dangerous, not only for humans, but for wildlife without careful adaptation. Yet heat alone does not define this climate. Seasonal winds play a powerful role. The Shomal, a northwesterly wind, can sweep across the region, lifting fine desert sands into vast dust storms that reduce visibility and reshape dune systems. These winds influence dune formation, transport sediment across large distances, and contribute to the ever-shifting patterns of the Arabian desert. Winter offers brief relief. From December to February, temperatures moderate significantly. Nights can become cool, particularly in desert interiors and the Hajj Mountains. This seasonal drop allows certain plant species to germinate following rare rainfall events. Seeds that may have lain dormant for years suddenly sprout, carpeting desert flats with short-lived greenery and wildflowers. In the mountains, altitude creates microclimates. The Hajj range receives slightly higher rainfall than surrounding plains. Orographic uplift forces moist air upward, causing condensation and occasional storms. These higher elevations can support more persistent vegetation, including acacia trees and hardy shrubs rooted in rocky soil. Wadis become critical lifelines, channeling scarce water into temporary pools that sustain wildlife long after rain has passed. Along the coast, another balance emerges. The Arabian Gulf is shallow and enclosed, causing sea temperatures to fluctuate dramatically. In summer, waters can exceed 35 degrees Celsius, among the warmest sea temperatures in the world. Salinity is also high due to intense evaporation. Yet marine life persists under these extremes, demonstrating remarkable physiological tolerance. Climate change introduces additional complexity. Rising average temperatures increase evaporation rates and reduce groundwater recharge. Sea level rise threatens coastal sabkhas and mangrove ecosystems. More intense rainfall events increase flood risk in urban and mountainous regions alike. In the UAE, survival depends on efficiency. Plants reduce leaf size to limit water loss. Animals become nocturnal to avoid daytime heat. Marine organisms tolerate salinity levels that would challenge many coral systems elsewhere. This is a climate of constraint, but also of adaptation. Life here does not flourish through abundance. It endures through precision. And in this careful balance between heat, wind, and water, the natural systems of the United Arab Emirates continue to persist. The Arabian Desert, life among the dunes. Across much of the United Arab Emirates, the horizon is defined by sand. The Arabian Desert is not empty space, it is a dynamic landscape shaped by wind, temperature, and time. Dunes rise in sweeping arcs, some reaching heights of over 300 meters. Their forms change with prevailing winds, creating crescent-shaped barchans, long ridges, and towering star dunes that shift slowly across the terrain. What appears static from afar is in constant motion. The sand itself tells a geological story. Much of it originated from ancient river systems and eroded mountain rock, ground down over millions of years and redistributed by wind. Grain by grain, the desert has been sculpted into patterns that reveal wind direction, storm intensity, and seasonal change. Even a slight shift in wind regime can alter dune orientation over time. But beneath the apparent barrenness lies a finely tuned ecosystem. Plant life is sparse, yet highly specialized. Ghaf trees, with roots that can extend tens of meters underground, tap into deep water reserves. Their canopy provides shade that reduces surface temperatures and creates microhabitats where insects and small mammals shelter from heat. Low shrubs grow widely spaced apart, minimizing competition for scarce moisture. Many desert plants exhibit remarkable adaptations. Small, waxy leaves reduce transpiration. Some species remain dormant as seeds for years, waiting for the rare rainfall that triggers rapid germination. When rain does fall, ephemeral wildflowers bloom briefly across the dunes, transforming sections of desert into unexpected color before heat returns and the cycle resets. Animal life follows similar principles of conservation. The Arabian Oryx, once extinct in the wild, has been successfully reintroduced and now roams protected desert reserves. Its pale coat reflects sunlight, and it can tolerate high body temperatures that would be lethal to many mammals. Sand gazelles move quietly across dunes, conserving energy and obtaining moisture from vegetation. Smaller creatures dominate the desert's ecological web. Lizards dart across scorching sand, lifting their feet alternately to avoid overheating. Jerboas and rodents remain underground during daylight hours, emerging only at night when temperatures drop. Nocturnal insects navigate using moonlight and stars, playing a crucial role in pollination and decomposition. Predators move silently. Desert foxes hunt under cover of darkness. Birds of prey patrol from elevated vantage points near desert edges. The entire ecosystem operates on timing, activity concentrated in the cooler hours before dawn and after dusk. Night transforms the desert. Temperatures can drop sharply once the sun sets. Without cloud cover to trap heat, the sand radiates warmth back into the atmosphere. Under vast, unpolluted skies, stars dominate the horizon, and nocturnal life becomes active. The desert is often misunderstood as lifeless. In reality, it is a system of precision, where every organism balances energy intake with energy expenditure, and where survival depends on minimizing waste. The Arabian Desert of the UAE is not defined by what it lacks. It is defined by how life adapts to scarcity. And in that adaptation lies one of the most remarkable survival stories in the natural world. The Hajj Mountains, rock, water, and hidden valleys. Rising sharply from the desert plains of the United Arab Emirates, the Hajj Mountains form a dramatic geological counterpoint to the surrounding dunes. Unlike the soft curves of wind-shaped sand, the Hajj Range is jagged, fractured, and ancient. These mountains were formed through tectonic collision millions of years ago, when sections of oceanic crust were thrust upward onto the Arabian Plate. The result is a rugged landscape of exposed rock, steep slopes, and mineral-rich ridges stretching along the eastern edge of the country. Here, elevation reshapes climate. Though still arid, the mountains receive slightly more rainfall than the surrounding desert. Moist air rising over peaks condenses, occasionally releasing rain that feeds seasonal watercourses. These channels, known as wadis, remain dry for most of the year but can transform into powerful torrents during storms, carving deeper into rock and transporting sediment toward the coast. Water is rare, but when it appears, it creates pockets of life. Pools that form after rainfall can persist for weeks in shaded gullies. These temporary freshwater reserves sustain amphibians, insects, and birds. Vegetation clusters along wadi floors where moisture lingers longest. Acacia trees anchor rocky slopes, their roots gripping into crevices where soil has accumulated. The mountains create microhabitats. North-facing slopes retain more shade and slightly cooler temperatures. Higher elevations experience cooler nights compared to coastal plains. These small climatic differences allow species that cannot survive in open desert to persist here. Wildlife is adapted to terrain as much as temperature. The Arabian tar, a mountain goat species, navigates near vertical cliffs with agility. Smaller mammals shelter among boulders, using rock fissures as protection from predators and heat. Raptors circle above ridgelines, scanning for movement below. Plant life is sparse but resilient. Shrubs grow low to avoid wind exposure. Some species flower rapidly following rainfall, completing their reproductive cycle before moisture disappears. Moss and lichen can cling to shaded rock surfaces, absorbing brief humidity from morning condensation. The Hadja Mountains also act as hydrological regulators. Rain that falls here feeds underground aquifers and replenishes groundwater that sustains oases and agricultural zones farther west. Without the mountains, even limited freshwater resources would be significantly reduced. Geologically, the Hadja Range reveals layers of deep time. Exposed rock strata show remnants of ancient seabeds and mineral deposits. Fossilized marine organisms embedded in mountain rock tell the story of an ocean that once covered this land long before dunes formed. The mountains are not expansive compared to global ranges, yet within the UAE they represent a world apart. A landscape of stone instead of sand, of seasonal water instead of permanent drought, of vertical refuge within horizontal desert. In the United Arab Emirates, survival is not confined to the dunes. It rises into the mountains, where rock, elevation, and rare water create a quieter, hidden dimension of life. Oases, sabkhas and salt flats, life in the margins. In the United Arab Emirates, life often survives at the margins. In places where water gathers briefly, or where salt defines the edge between land and sea. Oases are among the most striking examples. In regions such as Liwa and Al Ain, underground aquifers feed clusters of date palms and cultivated vegetation. These green islands within vast desert expanses exist because groundwater rises close enough to the surface to be accessed. Historically, traditional Khali irrigation systems channeled this water carefully, distributing it drop by drop across cultivated plots. An oasis is not simply a patch of vegetation. It is a microclimate. Palm canopies create shade that reduces evaporation. Beneath them, smaller crops can grow in cooler, protected conditions. The layered vegetation traps humidity and stabilizes soil, transforming arid terrain into habitable space. But beyond these freshwater refuges lies another extreme. Sabkhas, coastal salt flats, form where seawater seeps inland and evaporates under intense sun. As water disappears, it leaves behind thick crusts of salt and mineral deposits. At first glance, these areas appear barren, shimmering white under daylight. Yet even here, life persists. Specialized microorganisms survive within hypersaline conditions. Halophytic plants, salt-tolerant species, root themselves in mineral-rich soils. Their ability to regulate salt intake allows them to grow where most vegetation would wither. Sabkhas also serve as transitional zones. They lie between terrestrial desert and marine coastline, absorbing tidal fluctuations and acting as natural buffers against storm surges. In some regions, they form part of larger wetland systems that support migratory birds. Coastal lagoons and shallow wetlands host flamingos and wading birds that feed on small crustaceans thriving in saline waters. These wetlands are essential stopover points along migratory routes connecting Eurasia and Africa. Salt itself shapes the landscape. As mineral layers expand and contract with temperature changes, the ground fractures into polygonal patterns. These crusts influence groundwater movement and create unique soil chemistry that determines which species can survive. In an environment where fresh water is scarce, even brackish or saline ecosystems hold ecological importance. They store carbon, filter sediment, support specialized food webs, and provide seasonal habitat for migratory species. Oases and sabkhas illustrate a fundamental truth about the UAE's natural systems. Life does not require abundance. It requires opportunity, a pocket of groundwater, a thin lens of moisture, a tolerance for salt. In the margins between sand and sea, between fresh and brine, the resilience of desert ecosystems becomes most visible. Mangroves and coastal wetlands, green against the Gulf. Along the northern edge of the United Arab Emirates, where desert meets sea, a surprising ribbon of green emerges. Mangrove forests grow in shallow coastal waters, rooted not in fresh soil but in warm, saline tidal flats along the Arabian Gulf. These ecosystems stand in quiet contrast to the surrounding desert, dense, tangled, and alive with movement. The dominant species here, the grey mangrove, Avicennia marina, has evolved remarkable adaptations to survive in hypersaline conditions. Its roots filter salt from incoming seawater, while specialized aerial structures, pneumatophores, rise above the mud like breathing tubes, allowing oxygen to reach submerged root systems during high tide. Mangroves stabilize coastlines. Their interwoven roots trap sediment, reducing erosion and buffering shorelines from wave energy. In a region vulnerable to rising sea levels and storm surges, these natural barriers play a critical protective role. Beneath the waterline, the mangrove forests serve as nurseries. Juvenile fish shelter among roots, protected from larger predators. Crabs burrow into mud. Small invertebrates thrive in nutrient-rich sediments. This productivity supports larger marine ecosystems offshore, linking wetland and reef through complex food webs. The UAE's mangroves also act as carbon sinks. Despite occupying relatively small areas, they store significant amounts of carbon within their biomass and soil. In arid regions, where vegetation is sparse inland, coastal wetlands contribute disproportionately to carbon sequestration. Bird life converges here seasonally. Flamingos gather in shallow lagoons, feeding on algae and small crustaceans. Herons and egrets stalk tidal pools. Migratory species traveling between Europe, Asia, and Africa rely on these wetlands as resting and feeding grounds. The surrounding waters of the Arabian Gulf present another paradox. They are among the warmest and most saline marine environments on Earth, yet seagrass meadows and coral communities persist nearby. These ecosystems tolerate temperature and salinity extremes that would stress reefs in many other parts of the world. However, coastal ecosystems face mounting pressure. Urban expansion, dredging, and land reclamation alter tidal flows. Increased sedimentation can smother root systems. Rising sea temperatures add stress to already extreme marine conditions. In a land defined by sand and stone, mangroves represent resilience in water. They stand where desert yields to tide, where salt challenges survival, where land and sea negotiate balance twice daily. Green against the Gulf. These coastal wetlands reveal that even in the harshest climates, life finds anchorage. Marine ecosystems, reefs, seagrass, and open sea. Beyond the mangrove-lined shores of the United Arab Emirates, the Arabian Gulf opens into one of the most environmentally extreme marine systems on Earth. At first glance, these shallow turquoise waters appear calm and uniform. But beneath the surface lies a complex network of coral reefs, seagrass meadows, sandy seabeds, and deeper offshore habitats, each adapted to survive conditions that would challenge marine life elsewhere. The Arabian Gulf is unusually shallow, with an average depth of around 35 meters. Because it is semi-enclosed and connected to the open ocean only through the narrow Strait of Hormuz, water exchange is limited. Intense summer heat drives evaporation at high rates, increasing salinity well beyond typical ocean levels. And yet, coral reefs persist. UAE coral species have developed remarkable tolerance to high temperatures, surviving summer water temperatures exceeding 35 degrees Celsius, conditions that would cause widespread bleaching in many tropical seas. These corals grow slowly, but their resilience offers insight into potential adaptation pathways under global warming scenarios. Reefs support diverse fish communities. Parrotfish graze on algae, helping maintain reef balance. Groupers patrol rocky outcrops. Butterfly fish and angelfish weave between coral heads. Though species diversity is lower than in equatorial reef systems, the communities that remain are highly specialized for local conditions. Seagrass meadows form another vital layer. Stretching across shallow coastal waters, these underwater grasslands stabilize sediment and improve water clarity. More importantly, they provide feeding grounds for one of the Gulf's most iconic marine mammals, the dugong. The waters off Abu Dhabi host one of the largest dugong populations outside Australia. These gentle herbivores depend almost entirely on healthy seagrass beds. Where seagrass thrives, dugongs follow. Sea turtles also frequent these waters. Hawksbill turtles nest along UAE beaches and feed among reef systems. Their survival depends on intact coastal ecosystems and undisturbed nesting sites. Further offshore, open waters host pelagic species, tuna, mackerel, and occasionally whale sharks, drawn by seasonal plankton blooms linked to nutrient upwelling and coastal currents. However, marine systems here face considerable pressure. High coastal development, dredging, and maritime traffic can disrupt sediment balance and water clarity. Oil extraction infrastructure adds environmental risk. Climate change intensifies thermal stress events, testing even these heat-tolerant coral populations. Because the Gulf is semi-enclosed, recovery from disturbance can be slow. What enters the water does not disperse quickly. Yet conservation efforts are expanding. Marine protected areas have been designated to safeguard key habitats. Coral restoration research is underway, focusing on enhancing resilience. Seagrass mapping initiatives aim to protect dugong feeding grounds. The UAE's marine ecosystems are not defined by abundance. They are defined by endurance. Life here operates at the edge of physiological tolerance, adapting to heat, salt, and shallow water, balancing between stress and survival. In the waters of the Arabian Gulf, nature persists not because conditions are easy, but because evolution has found a way to endure the extra. Wildlife of the Emirates, desert survivors and coastal nomads. In the United Arab Emirates, wildlife is defined not by density, but by adaptation. This is not a land of vast herds or thick forests. It is a landscape where survival depends on efficiency, on conserving water, avoiding heat, and moving with precision across fragile terrain. In the desert, the Arabian Oryx stands as a symbol of resilience. Once extinct in the wild across much of the region, it has been successfully reintroduced through conservation programs. Its pale coat reflects sunlight, reducing heat absorption, while its ability to tolerate elevated body temperatures allows it to survive in conditions that would overwhelm many mammals. Nearby, the Arabian sand gazelle moves lightly across dunes, feeding on sparse vegetation and extracting moisture from leaves rather than relying on surface water. Many desert mammals avoid daytime activity entirely, emerging at dusk when temperatures fall and humidity rises slightly. Smaller species dominate the desert ecosystem. Jerboas leap across sand in short bursts, using burrows to escape daytime heat. Spiny-tailed lizards bask briefly in morning sun before retreating underground. Insects play an outsized role, pollinating hardy shrubs and recycling scarce organic material. Predators operate quietly. The Arabian red fox hunts rodents and insects under cover of darkness. Raptors such as kestrels and eagles use thermals along desert edges and mountain slopes to search for prey below. In the Hajj Mountains, terrain shapes wildlife behavior. Mountain goats navigate rocky cliffs with agility. Reptiles shelter in shaded crevices where temperatures remain slightly cooler. Birds nest in ledges protected from desert winds. Along the coast, wildlife shifts again. Hawksbill turtles return to nest on sandy beaches, laying eggs in carefully chosen sites above the high tide line. Their survival depends on undisturbed nesting grounds and healthy reef systems offshore. In seagrass meadows, dugongs graze methodically, consuming large quantities of underwater vegetation. These gentle marine mammals require stable feeding grounds and clear waters to thrive. Migratory birds add seasonal movement to the Emirates. Flamingos gather in coastal lagoons during cooler months, while other species travel between Eurasia and Africa, using wetlands as critical stopovers. In a region where freshwater is scarce, even shallow tidal flats become vital refuges. What unites the UAE's wildlife is constraint. Water is limited. Shade is scarce. Resources fluctuate. Every adaptation, nocturnal behavior, salt tolerance, reflective fur, burrowing, represents an evolutionary response to extreme climate. In the United Arab Emirates, wildlife does not dominate the landscape. It endures within it. Survival here is subtle, measured not in abundance, but in balance. A delicate equilibrium between heat, habitat, and timon. G. Nature under pressure. In the United Arab Emirates, nature exists within tight margins. Limited fresh water, extreme heat, fragile soils, shallow seas. When environmental pressure increases in such a system, the effects can be amplified. Rapid urban expansion has transformed large sections of the coastline over the past decades. Land reclamation projects, dredging, and artificial islands alter tidal flow and sediment movement. While engineered coastlines provide economic opportunity, they can disrupt mangrove habitats and affect nearby coral communities by increasing turbidity and sedimentation. In desert interiors, infrastructure fragments habitat. Road networks divide dune systems that once allowed wildlife to roam freely. Oryx and gazelle populations, although protected in reserves, face barriers outside managed areas. Fragmentation reduces genetic exchange and increases vulnerability to long-term population decline. Water scarcity remains one of the most critical pressures. The UAE relies heavily on desalination to meet human demand. While desalination provides essential freshwater, the process produces concentrated brine discharged back into the Gulf. Elevated salinity in nearshore waters can place additional stress on already extreme marine ecosystems. Climate change compounds existing challenges. Summer temperatures are rising. Heat waves are becoming more prolonged. Marine heat events increase the likelihood of coral bleaching. Although Gulf corals show unusual thermal tolerance, there are limits to resilience. Sea level rise threatens low-lying coastal sabkhas and wetlands. Mangroves may struggle to migrate inland where urban development blocks natural retreat. In desert regions, shifting wind patterns could influence dune movement and erosion. Increased variability in rainfall may intensify flash floods in mountainous wadis, posing risks both to natural systems and urban areas built nearby. Yet pressure is met with response. Protected areas such as desert conservation reserves safeguard key habitats. Mangrove planting initiatives expand coastal buffers. Wildlife reintroduction programs have restored species once lost from the region. The UAE faces a dual challenge: maintaining economic development while preserving ecological balance. In arid environments, there is little redundancy. When a habitat is lost, replacement is difficult. When groundwater is depleted, recharge is slow. Nature under pressure in the Emirates is not dramatic collapse. It is incremental strain on finely tuned systems. The question is not whether development can coexist with desert ecology. It is whether balance can be maintained in one of the world's most climate-constrained landscapes. The future of nature in the Emirates. The future of the United Arab Emirates will be defined by balance. Few nations operate within such tight environmental limits. Water is scarce. Summer heat is extreme. Marine systems exist at the edge of biological tolerance. And yet, within these constraints, the UAE has demonstrated that environmental management can evolve alongside rapid development. Conservation in the Emirates has shifted from protection of isolated sites to broader ecological planning. Large desert reserves now safeguard dune ecosystems and allow species such as the Arabian Oryx to move across protected corridors. Wildlife monitoring programs track population health, ensuring that reintroduced species remain genetically viable and ecologically integrated. Along the coast, mangrove restoration has become a national priority. Replanting initiatives expand natural carbon sinks while strengthening storm resilience. These green corridors do more than beautify shorelines. They stabilize sediment, support marine nurseries, and improve water quality. Marine research is increasingly focused on coral resilience. Because Gulf corals tolerate unusually high temperatures, scientists study them as potential models for climate adaptation. Protecting these reefs may not only preserve local ecosystems, but also contribute to broader understanding of how marine life can survive warming seas. Water management remains central. Investment in more energy-efficient desalination technologies reduces environmental impact. Groundwater recharge projects and sustainable irrigation strategies aim to protect limited freshwater reserves. In arid landscapes, every drop carries weight. Renewable energy expansion also reshapes the environmental future. Large-scale solar farms harness the region's abundant sunlight, reducing reliance on fossil fuels and lowering emissions that contribute to climate stress. The challenge ahead is integration. Urban growth must align with ecological thresholds. Coastal planning must anticipate sea level rise. Wildlife corridors must remain connected despite infrastructure expansion. In the Emirates, sustainability is not optional. It is structural. The desert does not forgive imbalance. The sea does not dilute impact quickly. The mountains do not store water indefinitely. Yet within these constraints lies opportunity. The UAE has the financial capacity, technological infrastructure, and governance frameworks to pioneer adaptive strategies suited to extreme climates. Lessons learned here may guide other arid nations facing similar challenges. The future of nature in the Emirates will not resemble untouched wilderness. It will be managed, monitored, and deliberately maintained. But if balance is respected, if connectivity is preserved, and if climate resilience remains central to planning, then the dunes will continue to shift, the mangroves will continue to root, and life will continue to endure in one of the world's most demanding environments. Endurance in the elements. From shifting dunes to jagged mountains, from salt flats to mangrove forests, the United Arab Emirates is a land shaped by extremes. Here, survival is not accidental. It is engineered by nature. Desert plants conserve every drop of moisture. Wildlife moves with the rhythm of heat and shadow. Coral reefs endure in some of the warmest seas on Earth. Mangroves root themselves in salt and tide. This is not a landscape of abundance. It is a landscape of balance. A balance between sand and sea, between development and preservation, between ancient geology and modern ambition. In the Emirates, nature does not dominate the horizon. It survives within it, carefully, precisely, and remarkably resilient. If you've enjoyed this journey through one of the world's most climate-challenging environments, please like the video. It truly helps support the channel. and subscribe to Apex Atlas for more cinematic documentaries exploring the nature, geography, and hidden ecosystems of countries around the world. More landscapes, more extremes, more stories of endurance on our shared planet. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next destination.